Welcome to the Pride, Passion, Drive podcast with your hosts, Bob and Phil.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, Phil and Bob here with Pride, Passion, Drive podcast. Thanks for tuning in as always. Here today with Jimmy Zizowski here at Jimmy Z's, Main Street, Brockport in Brockport, New York. I'm sure as many of you have been to the infamous Jimmy Z's. Grab a plate, grab some amazing food, ice cream. We'll be here with Jimmy for the next half hour or so, seeing how he got in the business, talking to him and about him and his pops.
All right, so Jimmy, did you grow up here in Brockport?
I grew up in Irondequoit, and I actually was in Irondequoit till I was in 6th grade, and then moved out more towards the Finger Lakes area, closer to us, right next to, went to Victor for a year, living in Farmington, and then went to Bloomfield for 3 years after that. So which is wild, and then got some country living in me from 7th to 10th grade, and then I decided to go back to Irondequoit and finish my last 2 years at Eastridge. So I'm a Irondequoit boy. Bloomfield boy. I've lived the suburban life. I've lived the city life. I've lived the the country life. So
What do you like better?
Honestly, I love the country, and that's where I'm at right now in Kendall. So, but I love the back roads, and I don't listen to country, but I love the back roads. So
yeah, I gotta respect that. Sure.
But had never been to Brockport until it came to looking for a location. It was on the list of places where this idea of Jimmy Z's that we had in late '01 started coming together, and Brockport was just on the list of locations that we went to live. We're going to look at. And so coming to Brockport to scout out location was my first time coming into Brockport.
Now, was it the one and only place you looked, or was it, this is a good contender?
Honestly, it was probably like the third on the list. The first two were easily X'd off, Gates, which honestly was like where Wimpy's is now. I was going to look at that place.
Oh, okay.
And,
the old Dunkin' Donuts,
The old Dunkin' Donuts. And we X'd that out, honestly. Just the overhead was just too high for us. Pops being in the business, is at that time, 34 years. No, 34 years, excuse me. He's just did 50 years in the business. And, he just said, you don't want to pay triple net. You don't want to have all this overhead. The amount of cheeseburgers you're going to have to sell to, pay the bills right off the bat. So we X'd that off. And then we looked at Charlotte, and, Charlotte was just too seasonal for us. And Brockport, honestly, was 3 on the list, and came into Brockport and, just loved everything we saw. The original location was not this one that we were looking at, but we knew that Brockport, we had a great feel for it. And what I did for 6 months, or close to 6 months, was, this was 2001, 2002. Back then we had Yahoo and AOL. MySpace wasn't even a thing back then, and I actually just went on AOL Instant Messenger, and I looked up people that were currently online under Brockport, New York, and I am them, introducing myself, letting them know that we have this idea of doing, honestly I describe it to them as like an upper scale Nick Tahoe's, like just something that was just a little bit different, but our version of the plate, and a lot of our own original items, soon to follow. And honestly the response was just so positive that all our eggs were at that point in Brockport.
Wow.
Yeah.
So like we were talking actually before we started, a little bit Gary V-esque there. You kind of went the route of, I'm going to be a pioneer, I'm going to see how this
I went from
internet...
the back door on everything. Like, honestly, there's a lot of backdoor stuff, but it was done the right way. It was done with time and patience and what I like to call sweat equity.
Of course. Yeah. Of course. Well, what better place than Brockport, right? I mean, college town.
Yeah.
It was a single place out here like it.
It was just such a great tool to have, where I can actually talk to people that have lived in this place that I was thinking about investing my life in. And that's really what it was all about, is investing my life, we came from restaurants, and this was our redemption from the failed projects of the past. and here we are.
And how many projects did you try before settling on Jimmy Z's?
Well, it's not that I tried. It's Pops. So Pops, got in the business in '84, and by '97 he had, went through his 5th place. So the first one was successful, and he decided to break away from a partnership and take a risk. And unfortunately, like from that point on, the risk just never panned off, and it led from restaurant 1 to 2, 3, 4, 5. 2 and 3 happened shortly after. We started '84. Number 3 was 80, and number 2 was 88. Number 3 was shortly after 88. Like there was 2 going at one time at one point to almost kind of play catch up. So it was just, it was just a process doomed from the get-go. But it was one guy, and it was a big set of nuts. And that's what got him there. And I respect everything and the risk that was taken. And but then a break was taken, and then Pops got back in late '92. I was in 5th grade. At that point, I was old enough to peel potatoes and bust tables.
I was gonna say,
5th grade, 12 years old. I've been basically working weekends since I was in 5th grade.
Wow.
Yeah.
So come Jimmy Z's, come Brockport, your early 20s.
I'm already like 9 years in.
Yeah.
Right?
So at that point,
I was already 8 years in when I came up with the concept.
Oh, so you're already deep in it. You're not like the normal kid. I'm just gonna go play sports. I'm not gonna really worry about the future.
I played modified basketball and modified baseball just because they couldn't cut me off the team. Okay, so they made the 5th quarter for guys like me.
Sure.
But for me, it was just being part of the squad, and I had a great time. I've always been a sneakerhead. I've always loved Air Jordans, so I've always played ball. I was the fat kid that they passed it to that made every shot. Okay, because if you weren't covering me, I was making it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I had my asset to with the guys. We had a great time, and that was that. And even with baseball, I was the first base coach and the third base coach, and I wasn't complaining. And honestly, that was less anxiety for me than when they put me out in the field. You know what I mean? And worried that I was going to mess something up. You know what I mean? But it was a really cool experience. I loved everybody I played ball with, 7th and 8th grade at that time in Bloomfield. I was 8th grade, and so we had a great time with both teams. That year, our basketball team went undefeated 7th and 8th, which was the first time ever because we had one of the best players, like obviously in the area, that went varsity like right after 8th grade. That good. 9th grade, yeah. So he was awesome. So we had that, and so it was a fun time. But no, it was work. There was no sports. I stayed after school for extra credit, and so because I was just never really good at school, so I put every extra time into it that I could. To just kind of help my grade, and know my teachers were trying, so they kind of just I had a lot of passes as far as that goes because of just teachers knew I was trying, and I was never a bad kid. I was always a good kid. Always showed up. Never they never was never wondering where I was. I was there. Okay, my mind was somewhere else.
Yeah. Sure.
Honestly, but that's exactly what it was. My mind was always somewhere else, but I showed up and I did what I had to do, and graduated with a local diploma, and that's about how I made it. You know what I mean? If I had to do a Regents, I don't think I would have been able to graduate high school.
Gotcha. So it's been in you for your whole life. This place is it's almost like it was meant to be. At
this point at the womb, man. I mean, I was running around the first place when I was 3 years old. So
it was in your blood.
Eating the profits. So
I'm sure Pops is happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, my first all I ate at the restaurant, I think until I was 7 or 8 was like spaghetti and meatballs. So yeah.
So growing up around somebody who was an entrepreneur in the restaurant world, do you feel your mind was more set in the food world or the business world?
My mind, first of all, my mind wasn't set on anything because I was lazy. I was the lazy one of the two. My brother was honestly the harder worker. I was this lazy shithead. Not gonna lie. I mean, I never really did anything too bad, but there was times I never really did anything too good either. So, and if something went wrong, I was the first one to be looked at all times. It was a rare occasion where my brother had any fault in anything. But it was okay. It was cool. I accepted that position, and my old man never gave up on me, and that's why we are where we are right now. To be honest with you, just like we never gave up on me. And when it came down to when I made my mind up at 19 that what we were going to do, at that point shit got real, and at that point my work ethic, like that's where I went from a 3 to an 8, like,
Do or die.
That's it. Like when the old man says, when I was like, oh man, I'm working 45 hours next week, and he goes 45 hours. I go say, if you're planning on doing what you're doing, you're gonna, get used to working double that. And at the time it was kind of like, one of those like big swallows. You know what I mean? But at that point, when it became real, 80 hours was part time.
That was actually my next question was. You just said at 19. Did you ever, growing up, was there any other thoughts besides this, or was it like, I want to be a police officer, I want to be a doctor?
Yes, there was. There was a few, all short-lived. At the time of my graduation, high school graduation, I was thinking about doing police officer, and then I was thinking about doing the Navy, and just neither of them at the point ended up it never happened. The Navy part, kind of like when they pulled out something that said, here, sign this, for 4 years, the next 4 years, that's kind of when I took a step back and I said, well, man, that now things got a little bit more realer now, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So, and I'm happy that never happened, but what happened was I got a job working late night at a diner right around the corner from my house in Irondequoit. So lunch is ready, so the boys are gonna be eating a little bit something right now.
Let's see.
All right.
Got the Eiffel Tower burger.
Eiffel Tower burger, guys. It's onion rings, chicken fingers on a cheeseburger, and it looks
Got
fantastic.
some bacon on that motherfucker.
It's some
too.
bacon, yes.
Thank you.
And
I got some fire sticks here.
Firecrackers.
Firecrackers.
Tossed in country sweet with some blue cheese on the side.
Yep, some pizza logs.
Yeah.
Dipped right in it.
So who came up with all these ideas? Because everything on the menu is not your average burger
Oh, the
joint.
names are awesome.
Yeah, the names are great.
I'm-
The concept.
I myself, it's about like 95% of the stuff I've come up with, and it's all happened in, in different periods of time, almost like, we kind of average, putting out a new menu. And what I mean by new is just kind of updating it, nothing too crazy, adding some, every time we did it, we always added new items for like 5 years straight.
Wow.
But in some years it was a couple items, and then some years it was, a bunch of items. Like when we launched Eiffel Tower, we launched that with like 5 other sandwiches.
This one always made me laugh over the years. I've been coming literally probably since you opened. And when I saw Chef Boyardee, just the creativity was always like, I would just laugh and be like,
the Chef Boyardee was like one of those items where I had the name and I had to create something that fit the bill. And then there's other times where I have the item and now I have to give it a name. And it's one or the other. There's no other way. But when it's, to me, kind of like that part of this whole ride to me is kind of like what I would almost kind of consider like the songwriting. Okay, and then like every time, like every 2 years when an updated menu comes out, you know what I mean? To me, it's kind of like the new stuff is like the new part of the new album. You know what I mean? And lately we've been kind of doing just more greatest hits albums because not too many new things have been coming out. Because at this point, after 16 and a half years, we've kind of maxed out on items, and
don't mess with what's in that.
And we have items like the firecrackers here and Eiffel Tower, which are 2 of our top selling items. In the future, what's going to happen now is you're going to see more limited time only menu items. Like right now, we have fried cheesecake, limited time only, and then we'll be doing some buffalo chicken jalapeno poppers and some fried guacamole sticks.
Fried guacamole.
Yeah, fried guacamole, and I'm not so much sticks, but they're basically just like half guacamoles, and then they're just julienne, and then they're breaded and fried, and they're really really good actually. So and just stuff like that, and and then other things like just being as eco-friendly as possible, and in the last 2 months we have started a new campaign where every customer that gets a drink that's not a kit or not a takeout we let them know that in our attempt to be more eco-friendly, tops and straws are optional. And 9 out of 10 people are okay with it. And 5 out of those 10 people would have been asking, where's my top and straw? So the awareness is great, and the fact that people are all about it is even better. So it's a great thing. And that's the whole thing. It's not one of those things where we want to eliminate them. We want to bring awareness. Like, dude, let's use these when we really need them.
Right.
You know?
I could not agree more. I see the debates and the people talking, and we have to use paper straws. Well, paper straws collapse. And all my comments, if I ever make a comment, is always, why do we need straws?
Yeah.
You don't. I mean, unless you have an issue or you're a child, you don't need them. Just drink, and that eliminates everything.
In a situation like the cups, you know what I mean? Like, like I said, takeout and kids. And we did in the last week or last 2 weeks, I would say, we have transitioned to paper straws, but we're still letting them know that tops and straws are optional because it's not even about the paper or the plastic of the straw. It's about do you really need a straw?
Exactly.
And when it comes with the milkshakes, we have a wide bubble tea straw, and there's kind of really no getting away on that one. There's basically about we're gonna be down to a point where 5% of our of the stuff that we use to plate and cup our food is going to be plastic, and that's kind of what it comes down to, because you can't. There's just certain things that are not at this point still not doable. You have to have a plastic top. Like,
I've also noticed you've changed your to-go containers.
The boxes are paper, and they have been for a while, but the paper only supports 80% of our product.
Okay,
so we still have had styrofoam in stock for those 20% of the items that it doesn't support. But in the last month, we have found an item, a biodegradable plastic, that will support everything, and which will completely eliminate now the paper boxes and the styrofoam boxes in the next month or so.
Nice. Very nice.
Once we gotta wait through inventory. We buy in bulk. So like, for instance, once my Gatorade is done, like, I'm done with Gatorade. There's no more bottles of Gatorade. We just signed a contract. Well, not a contract, but so much an agreement, like a merchant's agreement with Just Water, and that's a paper only carton of water, and they also have flavored water. And we're actually going to bring both in and replace the Gatorade with the flavored water and the bottled water with the paper carton water.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool.
We've already eliminated 20-ounce bottles of Coke and brought in cans for that department. So we're just doing everything we can to be eco-friendly. Not only just be eco-friendly, but bring awareness to, like, you really need this straw.
Exactly. I cannot agree more. I'm always on that side of, like, the debate of this plastic, and it's like, why just don't you don't need that.
And then the last thing that I'm really going for, that if we can find and that we can make work, is some biodegradable plastic forks and knives. Okay. And then we're golden, because the only thing after that we're going to have is just kind of like your portion cup that your blue cheese comes in,
Something you can't do.
Yeah, exactly. Just and there's your 5%.
Yeah.
So and so I'm really happy that in the next month to 2 months, tops, being into like a 95%, or a 5% plastic.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so fun.
And just real quick, I want to say this Eiffel Tower burger is absolutely fantastic.
Well, thank you.
Always,
the combination
food's always
is
amazing. I know
fantastic.
Phil's only been here once.
Yeah.
I'm here often. It's amazing. It's amazing food.
Yes. Very good.
But actually, I wanted to touch on, not only we're gonna have some pictures up here on the podcast for this episode. Check out his website and his Facebook, and you should have already stopped down multiple times if you live anywhere near here. But just the atmosphere. Whether you're a fresh college kid coming in, or a high school kid, or someone working across the street, it's welcoming, it's nostalgic, it's very 90s-esque. I love coming in here. I love seeing the stuff hanging on the walls, the Sports Illustrated, the movie posters. It's not like your normal, run-of-the-mill store or restaurant you walk into. So, make sure you come out, for sure,
And
just to see this unique, amazing restaurant, especially for the food, obviously.
And whose idea was decorating it this way?
I put everything up myself.
That is insane.
And it was all done in sections. Like, where we're sitting at right now was not touched until like the third year of operation. This whole back area was all white walls. We just concentrated on the front, and we crushed it and conquered that over the 2 years, and just consistently adding stuff. And we're adding around, the template, and whatnot. So
I've also noticed your shirts have exploded over the years from a couple to numerous shirts. Numerous designs.
It's unbelievable that in the last 16 years, I'd have to count them, but I think we've had over 20 different designs of t-shirts. And right now, the 8 that are up there are kind of just 8 of our top sellers, and there's some newer ones, some classics up there. The fact that I've been able, like the Gatorade style one, okay, we first did that probably in 2008. Between 2008 and 2010 was probably the first run on that, and the fact that we've reissued it 4 times, and this last time that we reissued it, it's been consistently on because it just consistently sells at this point.
That's awesome.
And and just in January of 2019, we launched a loyalty card that gets you a free T-shirt. So so every time you spend $10, or you have to spend at least $10 on your visit, and you get a stamp, and then 10 stamps get you a free T-shirt.
That's awesome. And I saw recently someone at a game somewhere had your guys.
It was WWE SummerSlam.
That's what it was. I knew I saw someone there just representing.
Yeah, it was a customer of ours that I had no idea was going to do it. So it was like a massive shock, and I wasn't even watching it. 2 people that were watching it were like, "Yo, I just saw this dude hold up a sign with said Jimmy Z," and so which was unbelievable. And then I put it up online just to say who did this. You know what I mean? And it was about 4 minutes, and then we figured out who it was.
I was laughing when I saw on Facebook the other day.
And yeah, honestly, it was, dude. In the wrestling world, you call that marking out, and I marked the fuck out. Okay, yeah, it was awesome. You know what I mean? It was awesome, and I loved it. And it's good karma, man. You know why? Because I go to big wrestling events. I've done a lot of them in my time growing up as a wrestling fan, and never being able to go to things like that because your old man was working all the time to make things work. This is our time, So like me and Pops, we've had a concert spree in the last 12 months. Paul Simon, Fleetwood Mac, Bob Seger, just people that were all on his bucket list. These are all his concerts.
Sure.
That's awesome.
I honestly would never have gone to Fleetwood Mac or Paul Simon, so I've had a blast doing it with him. So this is our time to do stuff that we couldn't do before, and cool. Here we are.
That's really
awesome.
cool. And tell us a little bit. You were telling us earlier about ice cream for kids and stuff like that.
Well, you had brought up how that the kids that are in field trips and whatnot. So anytime the kids in elementary school are doing a field trip, if Pop sees them walk by, he stops them, and we got to get the kids ice cream.
That's fantastic.
And and it's not anything that you discuss or run by. It's like it's instant reaction. Like, we're getting you ice cream, and because there's nothing that I don't really think, like, as a kid, I can speak for myself. If I was in anywhere between kindergarten and 3rd grade, and a place that stopped me and gave me ice cream, like, you just remember that stuff for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But that's who Pops is, and he honestly, he's they call him Poppy for a reason. He's Brockport's Poppy, man.
Oh, for sure. I remember all the way back working at Brockport in 08, all the time. Poppy was here all the time. Always had a smile on his face, always saying hi, always reaching out, and it just brings even more closer to home. Like, why would you want to go anywhere else? Well, he's always been great.
Every piece of the puzzle is very, very important, and to recognize people that frequent and not frequent or not, first time, love first timers. And love having an opportunity to, let them know what we're about and how we do, and, making sure they walk in happy, and making sure whoever sent them here doesn't look bad.
Well, that's certainly not hard to accomplish.
Because that's our number one thing, that before we even go with, like, making sure that that you're happy with your food, is making sure we don't make the person that sent you here look bad.
You've also recently, it's kind of one of the newer things out that I'm very glad people are doing. You guys obviously catering, but you also have food truck now.
Yep.
Or how's that working? Is that something you kind of were hesitant to, or it's like now we're going full bore?
The food truck is honestly also another funny out of the whim story. One morning, I kept on getting when the food truck wasn't even an idea yet. And I don't know what led to it. Someone saying that like, oh, you need to come here, or we put up a photo of whatever item, and then you get comment. Now at this point, after being open as long as we have been, we have people. I would almost if we did an actual like test on this or like actual data, I would say that we have at least somebody living almost in every state in America that has been to Jimmy Z's.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And if not all, and if not all 50, I would say at least 30 of the 50 states at least have one person who have been here before, and that's amazing. That's unbelievable. So with that being said, we get a lot of comments like, "Oh, come here, come here, come here," and you know, and I just one whim morning I said, one day if we ever make a food truck, we're gonna solely make it for a Jimmy Z's U.S. tour. You know what I mean? And it got like an unbelievable amount of response, likes. I'm like, I couldn't believe what was happening. I just put up this joke statement up, because I'm just like, I've seen so many people say that, and it was just such an amazing response that at that point you couldn't ignore that.
Oh, of course.
Couldn't ignore that. Got to listen to people. And at that point, we, looked into it and we made it happen, And I'm kind of happy. I'm very happy with what it has become. It's not a full-time truck like most food trucks. For us, it's a branch on the tree. It's a representation of the establishment. It's an amazing-looking vehicle, very well done and very well wrapped. So for us to run it a couple days a week, based on hire. So someone calls up and says, "Hey, we're having a corporate event. We'd like, I'd like to buy the whole company, lunch." That's kind of what we specialize in. Graduation parties where, one person flips the bill. Wedding rehearsals, weddings. We do vending, select vending, but we don't do anything where we have a team that has places once every Monday, once every Tuesday, once every Wednesday. They go up for a couple hours for lunch, and I wonder how many hot dogs we're going to sell.
Yeah.
That's
so
incredible.
Is this the food truck? Is it
You all right there? All right.
I had like a question about it.
It'll come back to you.
Yeah, well.
It'll come back to you.
But so the food truck catering, just little branches on the tree here. What's in store? Is it just going to keep grinding at what you guys have been great at for the last?
Honestly, you just you never know what's going to happen. We don't really plan that far ahead. We think out every plan. We give it the proper time to digest, and we don't ever jump on anything or make any rational decisions. But you just never know. Honestly, I'm worried about it. Like right now, I can probably tell you, like I can probably see right now up until probably like January 2020, and I can't say anything past that.
That's the way, just like the spots for you. That's how it works for you, or
honestly, yeah. I mean, I just don't have anything too massively long term. I swing with what gets thrown at me, and I swing at things that I think that look good.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to say to the people listening? Anything?
I just appreciate the support over the last 16 and a half years, and to all our current customers. And if you're listening and you've never checked this out, please do. We're on Main Street in Brockport, and tell us about your experience. One thing about restaurant business is that mistakes happen, and things happen, and all that kind of stuff. So it's really how you handle them and how you fix them. And so, stop by, tell us what you think, and, like I said to everybody else, just thank you so much to getting us to this point where these two fine young gentlemen even asked me to sit here and be recorded about what's going on. So that right there. So I thank everybody that made this possible.
Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you, Jimmy.
We really appreciate you coming in.
Appreciate taking the time out. I know you're busy. And Jimmy Z's, everyone. You need to stop down if you haven't. And if you've been here, you already know.
Yep, and check out our Instagram. We're going to have a ton of pictures of the food and the place here, and just so you can get an idea of the vibe that goes on here. It's not one you're going to want to miss. So,
For sure. See everybody.
see ya.